Tucker Carlson, bro. Like, what's going? These people are crazy. We're gonna talk about it. Let's go. Gotta play that gets me hype, bro. Gets me hype. So, what is going on, everybody? Thank you all so much for tuning into this live stream segment of For the People podcast, a podcast for and by the people. Also, in case you didn't know, coincidentally, but not coincidentally, it might have been a marketing ploy, strategic, you could even call it. For the people, my name actually means for the people, or it actually means victory for the people. And that's where the name of the podcast came from. My name is Niko. Some of you may not know this, but it's actually Greek. And my name is the male conjugated version of the goddess Nike. And Nike actually means victory for the people, even though Nike tried to make it seem like it only means victory, but it actually means victory for the people. But you know, Nike, the shoe company, couldn't dare say that it means victory for the people because, you know, they are all about slave labor and screwing people out with pennies on the dollar when it comes to manufacturing their shoes. So, but that's what it actually means. So that's where my name came from. I like to think that that's my purpose. That's what I was put on the planet to do. And so that's what I try to fulfill. We have a great show for you guys today. We're going to be talking a little bit about Tucker Carlson, Nick Cruz from RBN, Socialist MMA, if you follow him on Twitter. Not only from RBN, but he's my colleague in arms at Hotspot Media. Oh, actually, Nick is here early. Boy, don't let them ever tell y'all black people ain't on time. Boy, you here early as hell. Let's go.
Bro, I saw you invited me on your channel. I'm like, bro, I saw Nico House Live. I'm like, bro, I'm definitely gonna jump on. I definitely gotta jump on me. Especially when I heard your explanation. Like, I don't know if you know this, but my name also means victory of the people. And I like Googled it real quick. And apparently Niko and Nicholas has the same Greek origin. I just now learned that.
Oh, I just learned that too.
Do you want to see this? Look at this. I just saw this. I was like, well, I heard your speech. I was like, wait, that was my name mean too. You guys see this?
Damn, that's I had no idea.
It's from the same Greek variation of Niko, Nikolas. I just learned this just now. That's wild, isn't it?
That's crazy. I had no idea. Yeah, that's dope. I mean, I guess it makes sense. Greece was kind of running the world for a while, so. Yeah. Man, I'll tell you a fun fact before we get started. I just found out the other day that a huge reason that the Greek Empire fell was because of, the Roman Empire fell was because of Christianity coming into play. Like, they were overextended, but also Christianity became like a thing, and some people who didn't have power previously used it to force a wedge in the Roman Empire. And as we know now, the Vatican became a thing, and Catholic Church became the dominant power, the dominant force across the globe at that point. So I was like, and when you think about the fact that it's ironic, right? Because the Romans killed Jesus, and then like Christianity killed the Romans.
Dude, Roman history is crazy, man. I've been fascinated with Roman history a lot recently.
Yeah. I didn't know about the meme, bro. I just only started looking more into it because like about this meme where all guys talk about Roman history all the time. I didn't know that was a thing.
I didn't know that was a thing either.
I started seeing it on Instagram. Like, yeah, like if you bring up the Roman Empire, your boyfriend will just randomly start telling you a bunch of facts. I'm like, what? That's a thing? I never knew about that.
Now I see why. Now I see why a lot of people are interested in it. It's fucking crazy time in history, bro.
Yeah, man. It's a crazy time because of just how much influence it had culturally on the world, how vast the empire was, and like also we don't really know what the point was. that's like the biggest thing. I'm like, damn, this is a big ass empire, and I don't know exactly what, like, to go from, I guess it's kind of the same thing as Greece, right? To go from what it was to just like this now, with virtually no influence in contemporary politics outside the Vatican, because they realized, my assumption is that somebody realized it's too expensive to maintain an empire and name. Like, you have to maintain them from relationships, because if you maintain an empire and name, now their problems become your problems. Yeah. Officially. So I feel like it was the same thing.
Gangsters, man. Because we talk about how small Rome is now. Like, they started off small too. Like, I saw some documentary like maybe like a few weeks ago talking about like the early days of Rome, and they talking about like how small their map was. It pretty much like how Rome is now. It's like it started off as Rome, just as a small settlement, and these motherfuckers was gangster. Like, so things was different back then. Like raiding was very normal. Life was pretty damn hard. Like jacking people resources was fucking normal. Slavery was normal, and Romans was the greatest at it. They were the greatest at doing the most gangster shit in human history. And when you
back
see
then
what
you had
Romans
to, man.
go ahead, Niko.
No, I was just saying you had to. That's what's crazy about it. It's like you
Yeah.
can't really. It's I can't really criticize the time period because like
Everybody
was on that time.
Yeah, when you look at the people that Rome conquered, you learn that they was conquered by other people as well. Like Rome was just the best conquerors. You know what I mean? Just they was the fucking gangster people of that era.
And I also think that the fact that they were a democracy prior to the empire probably had something to do with it because they were so organized, right? Like they were extremely organized before. I guess the first emperor was Caesar. Took over, and don't correct me, don't quote me on that. I'm pretty sure it was Caesar, but they were organized because they were a democracy. Then they kind of dissolved the democracy and the emperor took over, but they still technically had a senate, but it was basically to maintain the different regions. It wasn't like they actually had the same power that they once had. Funny enough, that's kind of what that movie Gladiator is about. How like there was like a struggle for power because like there was do we go back to democracy or do we go back to the empire? And apparently democracy lost. It might be a lesson in that we don't want to talk about. But anyway, so what's going on, man? It's been a crazy week. Really, it's been a crazy couple of weeks in all of politics. Nikki Haley and that embarrassing loss. Tucker Carlson going into Russia and fulfilling the prophecy of him finally interviewing Vladimir Putin.
It's gonna be a banger, bro.
Yeah,
I'm not a fan of Tucker, man. People know my opinion on Tucker, but that shit's about to be a banger, bro. Straight up. Go ahead.
No, that's facts. Because what the craziest part about Tucker is like, we know you can feel how you want to feel about Tucker, but he's gonna piss off the empire. And at the end of the day, that's more important to me than any of the petty social, cultural, like shit that he might have said 5-6 years ago. Because like I could say that about literally anybody and everybody. But like, if you're going to use your massive platform right now to piss off the empire, especially in this particular situation, because it's not like he's going to interview some rando that doesn't have that much influence, right? This is on the back end of a W for Russia against Ukraine, and while we know the U.S. empire, the Western empire, is like, it feels like it's on the brink of collapse. At least, that's what it feels like economically, militarily, even. They're not unified right now. They don't know. There's a power vacuum that no one really wants to acknowledge because everybody knows Biden isn't really in charge. So there's that. So like having this interview right now when everyone is willing to listen is a big deal. So we're also going to talk about this two clips from Bill Maher. I know you've seen that Killer Mike clip, bro. I know you've seen that one with Patrick Bet-David. Did you see that yet?
I don't know which one you're talking about. I've seen two clips, both cringe from both sides. I don't know which one you're going to talk about because I think the conversation is like, who's the worst out of them? Because both of them are like broken brain partisans. So both of them, I seen like a 15-minute clip of it. Like both of them came off horrible to me. But anyway, I can't wait to see.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about it. So first things first, man. Have you seen the reactions to Tucker Carlson before he even told the world actually that he was going to interview Putin? They were already like trying to get ahead of the story and attack him for it. With even Bill Kristol coming out and saying that he shouldn't even be allowed back in the country because of an interview. But have you seen the reaction since he announced that he was going to interview him?
So it's okay to have the fascist Zelensky be interviewed by Americans and by people in the UK and never be asked a single tough question. But they melting down over Tucker Carlson in an interview that we haven't even seen yet. Even if Tucker does give Putin a softball interview, which I am predicting, by the way, that's what every single person in the Western media did to Zelensky. So why is one considered bad but not the other? It will make no sense for journalists or essentially anyone to allow our ruling class to draw the lines in the sand on what we can do. How does that make sense? The idea that they will even try this show their audacity. The idea that they can draw the red lines in our sand, how does that not offend people? It has nothing. It could be someone I hate more than Tucker, and I will still side with them just because the audacity of his enemies to say that we can't talk to certain people. Get the fuck out of here with that.
Yeah, because we know that same sentiment would be passed to us, right? It doesn't matter if Tucker just happens to be the name. Take away the name, say I'm going to interview Zelensky, and you're not part of CNN, Fox News, MSNBC, the media machine. They're going to have the same reaction, right? And what's funny is, like you said, they didn't have a reaction to Zelensky being softball. We didn't see wall-to-wall coverage of Zelensky being soft. Oh man, why didn't they challenge him? Why didn't they ask him about the Azov battalion, the fact that U.S. Congress said we can't even give y'all more money in 2017, had to pass a bill saying, nah, bro, we gotta stop training them. They're Nazis, dog. We can't, and you made them a part of your military. Why is that? Why haven't you said anything about the Maidan coup in 2014, et cetera, et cetera? Or even about the politics within Ukraine, the fact that he was actually elected to prevent this from happening, to uphold the Minsk agreement. That's the shit that he ran on, to root out the corruption from the NATO powers, and specifically the United States, from that administration, so that the Ukrainians could go back to living in, or try to live in peace, right? None of that. But also, that like Putin hasn't had tough interviews since this war started. They had like this as people. I watched the interview today, or part of an interview today, where CNN journalist was sitting down with Putin, because you know Putin don't give no fucks. That boy is calm and cool as a cool cucumber, dog. He don't care who's interviewing him. You don't get the same responses. That's the funny part. He was like, "Did you kill your competition?" And da 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 da. And Putin was like, "Look, man, y'all acting like," they said, "No, that doesn't happen in our country. Like that's stupid. Like that doesn't happen." But hey, question really quick, because you talk about political persecution. You got people who just marched to the White House because they had a disagreement with the policies there, with the election, and now the 200 people plus are facing 25 or 5 to 25 years for a political disagreement. He said, "Did you order the?" He said, "Did your government order the assassination of that young woman at the Capitol?" Because that was a political disagreement. She didn't even get tried. She wasn't dangerous. Boy, I was like, look, see, y'all tried. Y'all. So like, what is a softball interview for Putin gonna look like anyway? Right? Like, it's gonna give him his chance to tell the story without being cut off 24/7, without having to ask questions that are stupid.
There's a reason why they don't interview him. And I explained on RBN, there's a coordinated effort to avoid showing their audience what Putin says. You would think, like look at all the speeches of Hitler, for example, that we have seen.
Mm-hmm.
They studied Hitler. If you have someone who you deem to be the enemy, the greatest threat to Europe, as they claim him to be, wouldn't it serve people to know what he is saying, his ideology? They hide what he says for a reason. Whether you agree with Putin or Xi Jinping or not, Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping are very smart and brilliant people. They are experts in their craft. They understand what they are doing. You cannot say that for the puppets in the suit that run our government, who can't even explain our basic policy with the policies that they support without looking like an asshole. Meanwhile, Putin can sit under fire and rationally and calmly explain why he's engaged in military action in Ukraine in a very rational way, using history and policy. And then whether you agree with him or not, you can take it or leave it, but you know he has an explanation. You know he has an ideology. That's why they hide him. And another thing I want to touch on before I pass it right back to you, Niko, the meltdown is hilarious, because I've been trying to decolonize people's mind and break down these strange Western standards that we have. They want us to hate Vladimir Putin, Niko, but he's speaking out against the genocide in Gaza. He said that there's a graveyard of children in Gaza in the speech I saw from him.
Really? When did he say that?
He gave a speech where he said, there's in Gaza, Israel's turning Gaza into a graveyard. I showed it on RBN. It was a clip. I think Hotspot posted it as well. Where Putin was like, Gaza's being turned to a graveyard of children.
Wow.
So I'm supposed to hate that person? But you guys like the person who's turning Gaza to a graveyard? They like Joe Biden, who's funding the genocide. These people voted for Joe Biden, who's funding a genocide. Bernie Sanders, he was just doing a corporate media appearance. He just released a video praising the guy who who's supplying 2,000-pound Buster bunker bombs to Israel, but they want us to hate Putin as they cheer on this maniac. You know the administration, the ICJ found South Africa's argument that Israel's committing genocide very convincing. They say they find convincing arguments that is happening. The Biden administration says they see no basis, and they reject the finding of the international court.
No basis except for that whole case where there was a bunch of. Also, like, can we be honest? When does Israel actually deny the genocide part? They don't really deny it. They say, but they tried to genocide us, so we're just genociding back. Right? Like, that's basically their argument. Have you seen this picture of Hamas? Have you seen this picture of October 7th? It's like, yeah, but y'all are committing a genocide though, right? Look, man, we're not talking about that right now. Have you seen these convincing pictures?
That's such a good point, Niko.
Say it again.
That's such a great point because their defense, and I was talking about it after their ICJ appearance, was essentially describing a war crime. They was like, we're not guilty of genocide because no one in Gaza is innocent.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, well, no, innocence or guilt is actually not the determining factor of a genocide, right? Because innocence and guilt is a lot of times subjective in the eyes of international law. But yeah, genocide is genocide, bro. Like, I don't know why they like. There's so many videos of them just boastfully announce, like when you literally have a plan that didn't leak. Like people keep forgetting this plan from Israel's intelligence didn't leak on the internet. It was, yeah, man. So we're cutting this deal with Egypt where we're going to try to remove all 2.5 million Palestinians. Hold up. That's a genocide. No. It's a bargain. We're like we're bribing another government, to take all these people, and until they're all gone, we're going to keep killing them. That's not a genocide. No, that's the genocide by definition. No, I think you're misunderstanding. Like, bro, the shit that comes out of Israel's mouth isn't even leaked. That's the shit that be killing me about it. The whole conversation. You seen that? Did you see the dancing? The tweet? Israel will dance again. Or we will dance again.
Oh no! I don't know if I saw that, but I seen many Israel tweets, so I can only imagine.
Yeah. So they tweeted out 2 days ago. So what makes this tweet interesting is that it happened right after there was a leak that apparently where Joe Biden was criticizing Netanyahu, right? And also just like Israel, the last couple of days, just politically for Israel has not gone really well. And so they randomly, out of nowhere, tweet out, "We will dance again." I don't know if you're familiar with that document from 9/11 in the Mid Press covered this. They covered it in 2019, ironically. It was like a long time ago. That the dancing Israelis that got caught celebrating as they were taking pictures and video footage of 9/11 happening in real time. They were like they were in New Jersey, so they were around the outskirts of New York. They were taking the video footage, and two of the people that were there were Mossad agents. And the document, the FBI document, was called "Dancing Israelis," and they literally.
That's so
like Biden might be criticizing him privately. They're not winning over the public. The ICJ obviously hasn't been on their side. They might be facing more problems. They're not getting the help they believe they deserve or the support they believe they deserve from everybody across the board. And then they tweet out some shit like, "We will," in this situation with Iran too, where maybe they don't feel like we're going hard enough on Iran yet. And so they're like, "We're going to dance again."
It was the funniest thing at the ICJ because they was hyping it up beforehand. They was like, Israel's ready to destroy South Africa. The top Zionist legal scholars that we've seen in a generation are teaming up to battle South Africa at the ICJ. Then they showed up at the ICJ and it was like, yeah, South Africa is a mosque. that was the legal. We got the expert team of scholars to explain why we can commit a genocide. No one in Gaza is innocent. I'm like, these are your experts. They made asses of themselves, which is why the ICJ sided with South Africa. And now there's a massive amount of international pressure. I'm putting a story together for later this week. You had South Africa that is potentially looking for charges for the United States and the UK. You had a lot of countries. There's this growing momentum to not only hold Israel accountable, but hold everyone accountable. Now people are nervous. That's another reason why you see Spain and some of these European countries push back against the UNRWA, defunding UNRWA. That's just because they don't want to be implicated in what's happening right now. But Niko, go ahead. I'll pass back to you because there's a story I'm working on later because you got all these, like, especially with Saudi Arabia now saying there will be no diplomatic relations with Israel that came out last night. Like the ICJ ruling is going to have a giant impact because Israel lawyers made their performance was so bad, and I think. Like if they did better, Niko, I think Israel could have probably got away with this a little bit more.
I mean, if they tried, if they literally just tried,
yeah.
If they just tried, maybe like that would have been better. They didn't even try. Like they literally just put on suits and were like, yeah, man. So y'all seen these pictures of Hamas, and I'm pretty sure that these people are also Hamas, and I'm pretty sure the judges are also Hamas. Like, so that's y'all did all this shit to just call everybody Hamas, and also in law, what you learn is like just because somebody else is guilty, that does not necessarily absolve you from guilt of what you did.
Israeli lawyers didn't know that.
Yeah. Oh no, there are lawyers who don't. I mean, I would say like not 70% of the lawyers in the country, just like most jobs, are actually bad at their jobs. Like that's like I
believe it.
Well, look at our fucking. How many journalists are actually good at what they do?
That's a great point, Niko. That's a great point.
Exactly.
So I believe that if Israel legal defense put up a better fight, we would have a harder struggle. They perform so badly. I believe that people who are not anti-colonial, people who was like on the fence, like people who had a hard time navigating this issue, you know what I mean? For whatever reason, I think they saw how Israel had no respect for the court. Their performance was so bad, I think they lost the people on the fence. And now people are more willing to do action against them. But go ahead, Niko. That's why I think
that's actually a brilliant point. That is a brilliant point. And I mean, having contempt for the court like that is actually a surefire way to get screwed. Like the court will, they you know, everybody who got an official title love the respect that comes with that title. So when you try to embarrass the court like that, and while the entire world is watching, and effectively insult the intelligence of the judges and everybody who's watching, and the other attorneys who clearly put a lot of effort into their case, the courts get pissed, right? And I think we saw that was part of the result. I agree with you. The other thing I want to mention really quick before we move on is that the interesting thing about Saudi Arabia cutting off all diplomatic ties to Israel is that they're actually in the middle of a peace deal with Yemen. The Yemen-backed government the Saudi Arabian-backed government in Yemen is in the middle of a peace deal with the Houthis to make sure one of the things that they're trying to do is make sure that all the government employees get paid because they haven't been paid in forever. And the U.S. is actually trying to stop that from happening. They're trying to block them from having this peace deal. But in my opinion, the fact that this peace deal is occurring right now at the same time Saudi Arabia is cutting off all diplomatic ties, it to me signifies that the Houthis are actually influencing the situation much more than people thought. Right?
That's a great point.
Saudi Arabia is no longer. This is another. Remember, Saudi Arabia, whenever the U.S. is like, hey, man, y'all make sure y'all hop over here and sanction Russia too, man. They're like, nah, man, we good on that. Y'all, you can handle it though, big bro. You got it. Right? Well, let us know how it goes. They refuse to participate. Now, this is another example of them refusing to participate in the U.S. and Israel's bullshit. So what is going to happen? Because if the U.S. does not have Saudi Arabia firmly in its grasp, and because they play both sides a lot of the time, right? They had Israel from one side, Saudi Arabia from the other side, right? Now, Israel's losing its weight in the region. Saudi Arabia is like, yeah, nah, we not trying to get wiped out the face of the planet. Y'all know we don't really got a military. Shit, we can't really defend ourselves. We just hoping that people don't figure that shit out, basically. So they kind of got to play ball, because if Iran decides to do what they can do, and what they can do is just bust your ass. Like that's been pretty apparent. Like to the point where they didn't. I always say like the craziest part about Soleimani is that it was very indicative of how scared the U.S. and the West is of Soleimani, because y'all didn't want to go see him with the ones. Y'all didn't see him on the battlefield. Y'all didn't want to face him face to face. Y'all like, yeah, we're gonna attack him while he's in another country on the way to a peace deal from a fucking plane and use a drone to bomb him, because y'all knew he was gonna be too clicked up. Y'all knew anything that y'all tried to do on the ground, you would lose. You couldn't send terrorists after him, at least in Iraq. Why? Because he killed all of them. He killed all of them. That was his team. So they know that Iran's with the shits. And if Iran decides to pipe off, there's not a single country in the Middle East that could challenge them. Not really, because also like the U.S. says, they have their proxies too. So it isn't just Iran's military that you have to worry about. It's everyone who owes Iran for supporting them against U.S. imperialism. That's a lot of people. That's a lot of people. You got to look at. You can't be in damn near a single country in the Middle East without having to watch over your back and your front. Because if you got Iran coming from the front, you got somebody that they help pointing a gun at your back. Because this is what the situation that y'all created. So I'm not surprised that Saudi Arabia is taking this position on both sides, wanting to work with the Houthis, but simultaneously cutting off diplomatic ties to Israel, as the Houthis are punishing countries economically for engaging with Israel. I don't think that's a coincidence. So, really quick, Nick, man, you see the news about Nikki Haley, dog?
How did she embarrass herself today? Like Nikki Haley and Chris Christie and Marianne Williamson, they are the perfect examples of why you should never take electoral politics seriously. Have you see that Chris Christie has a book out, Niko?
No, I didn't know that Chris Christie could read.
What a coincidence. What a coincidence.
Why you say that?
So Chris Christie runs a race. He knows he has no chance of winning, and essentially does a media tour and is a media plant for the Democratic Party to bring up January 6th. He tried to rehabilitate his image using Trump. At the same time, he has a book coming out, and now he's going on those same liberal media outlets talking about what happened to the Reagan Party. The point being, you guys notice how all these politicians...
Marianne Williamson? You tell me you put Marianne?
Yes. They use elections for book sales, just like Marianne Williamson. Chris Christie knew he didn't have a goddamn chance in that race. The same way Marianne Williamson knows she don't have a goddamn chance running as a Democrat. But if you don't run as a Democrat, you alienate liberal books, people who buy their books, right, Niko? You don't want to alienate liberal buyers, so you run as a Democrat. The same thing with Nikki Haley. Nikki Haley has no goddamn chance, and her political career is over. Like the way she debased herself, Republicans will never support her again. She is literally auditioning for that Raytheon position, a lobbying position. Post politics is what Nikki Haley is looking after right now.
Facts.
It's a joke.
No, that's facts, and it's almost kind of funny because I don't think she's even doing a good job on auditioning for those positions because she's not very convincing. She's not good at convincing people to go to war. I am embarrassed that anyone thinks that she's a good candidate at all. That's the fact that she gets votes. It don't even have to be a lot. Because to me, and people that I know, listening to her talk, she's an idiot. And it's very obvious. She's not an idiot politically, people. She's an idiot. Like, period. Full stop. Punto. Like, and like when people are listening to her talking, thinking like, yeah, man, that's somebody I can see myself voting for. I'm like, this is fucking insane. The country's fucked. We're screwed. Because we can't even acknowledge basic dumbasses. Like the stupidity. Like, woman, literally we gotta remember what she was like, you know how we help secure the border and prevent another 9/11? We send money to Ukraine and fund Israel. Now, the latter, maybe there is some truth to that. Maybe, she knows when you're getting extorted, you got to pay off your yeah, maybe she's onto something about paying Israel off. But funding Zelensky to make sure that we don't have a problem at the border and therefore prevent another 9/11 is insane. And the fact that she said all that shit seriously and she wasn't ridiculed every single day the next day on the news is insane, because if that was Trump who would have said something like that, in the way that she said it in 2016, people would have been roasting them, rightfully so. So
the liberals, the Democrats.
Let me just argue real quick. Nikki Haley's Nevada lost to nobody. The stunning result in which Haley lost to the Nevada ballot's version of none of the above underscored the power of Trump, who continues to win nominating contests and poll well. Nikki Haley lost to nobody in the Nevada Republican presidential primary Tuesday night. Yeah. In an embarrassing showing in a primary that had no delegate prize anyway, the former South Carolina governor placed second to a quirky option Nevada offers in both primary and general elections. None of these candidates, no name, no face choice, who made no campaign appearances and conducted no advertising, had 62% of the vote on Tuesday, with 86% of the votes counted in the Silver State. Haley hoping to be the one waiting in the wings if former President Donald Trump's campaign implodes, won just 32% of the vote. Bruh.
Embarrassing.
That is, I don't even know how much money has she spent on her campaign so far, bruh? It's like close to $500 million, isn't it? Close. It's like close to it. She spent some wop, and you lost to nobody. None of these. Not nobody. It was none of these candidates. Nobody would be better, honestly. None of these candidates. There's only one. It's only her. You know, Trump didn't, because of the lawsuit, I believe it was. Trump didn't even have his name on the ballot, Nick. And they said, we would rather vote for nobody than vote for you.
That's fucking hilarious, man.
Why are you in the race? Because hell, you ain't about to sell no books. But I want to know, because it also tells a different story, right? It also, and now I believe that this also was part of a trolling effort from Trump supporters, right? Because they hate her, they despise her, and if that is true, then it could also mean that his people organized and did this in mass, and because 86% of the state voted in that primary. That's a huge. So that is what I would call galvanization, if there ever was a word to describe it. Like that is his people are mobilized. How do you see 2024 going? Because it isn't, we know elections are effectively a farce. I'm more concerned about not the results themselves, but the reaction to the result, how we gonna get there.
You had Nikki Haley. At no point did she ever say what she was going to do for the American people. It was, let's go to war here. Let's go to war here. Let's go to war here. This is what Trump does here. This is what Trump does here. Of course, no one's going to vote for that. Nikki Haley and everyone who supported her, like, and this is what exposed many Democrats. It was more telling on them that you was hear what Nikki Haley is saying and you would endorse that. Anyone who believed that Nikki Haley was the competent, least insane person in that race, that says more about your moral character than anyone else. So everyone who came out in support of Nikki Haley, they embarrassed themselves. It was an experiment from the old school neocons, and it failed spectacularly. So it's definitely fucking funny to see.
An experiment is the kindest way to put that, because I don't even know. I don't know who asked her to run. I do. So here's my theory about Nikki Haley specifically. I feel like it was an experiment to see where America falls on these issues that traditionally they've either had no opinion about, or the media and the politicians in power have been able to manipulate. Right? Iran. What can we tell them about Iran that they will believe and won't believe? Turns out the majority of people don't believe shit anymore about, like, from the mainstream narrative. What can we tell them about the border that they will believe or they won't believe? They don't believe shit. Can we invoke certain triggers that elicit an emotional reaction without logic being applied, like we've seen in the past? For example, she constantly says, "What, Nick? Without Iran, there is no Hamas." That's just not fucking true. It's just simply not true. It's not, like, Hamas is only there effectively, if you want to be real, because of Israel. Israel is, like, without them effectively removing the PLO and then empowering to some degree Hamas in the beginning, just to give somebody for Israel to fight and remain in that region. It would be under a different name, but it wouldn't be Hamas. But she just keeps saying, without Hamas or without Iran, there is no Hamas. She also says, without Iran, there is no ISIS and shit like that. And nobody's buying it. Because if they did buy it, well, she would be more popular. She would be, then we wouldn't be having this conversation about her getting beat by nobody in the.
Do you see the conspiracy theory that she said about how Hamas planned October 7th because they wanted to do it around Putin's birthday? She said October 7th literally was a gift to Putin, and that was their way to message to Putin, like, hey, guys, we are on your side, instead of establishing communications, any other normal way people would do it. She said that Hamas sent a secret terrorist attack message that Putin would decode on his birthday, and that would be a message to attack the Americans. This is what Nikki Haley said in front of people at a serious campaign event, and people wonder why her campaign didn't take off. And people and liberals wonder why we look at them crazy when they said she was the competent one, that she was the same one when she said Hamas did October 7th because of Vladimir Putin.
When kids, like when they lie through their teeth, like little kids, like 4 or 5 years old, and they be serious as hell when they telling this lie, and you like, bro, I know you're not about to sit here, but I'm gonna let you cut, little man. Like they be lying, and they get so passionate about the lie that they already got. That was Nikki Haley. That speech was. She's like, no, guys, listen, hear me out. They gave a birthday present to Vladimir Putin. I was like, no, she's not gonna keep. Oh, she's gonna keep going. All right. And she just kept going to try to convince the crowd, and there was no claps, there was silence. I wish they would have turned the camera so we could have seen their reactions to that bullshit. I'm sure somebody walked out of there, I can't believe you brought me to this motherfucking rally, wasting my goddamn time.
If the camera went to the audience, you will see people turn to their friend like, nigga, did she just say what I think?
She's fucking saying that it's my birthday. Like,
hold up, I was with her before, but she's losing me, right?
Who's her foreign policy advisor? Who's her? I'm curious, because that motherfucker ain't never getting a job again. He's done. His career is over. His career is going the way of what's that douche's name that was Bernie's foreign policy advisor?
Matt Duss.
Matt Duss. Yup. Yeah. Like,
how will
he'll never get another progressive campaign, not a presidential anyway. Because,
have you seen his takes on Ukraine and China? Like the fact, if I knew about this guy, Niko, I know you guys was warning me, like my friends Niko and Misty, but bro, if I knew about Matt Duss beforehand, I was like, nah, I'm good with Bernie, bro. I had no idea that Bernie, and this is one thing I am open about the mistakes I made. I had no idea the swamp monsters that Bernie was surrounded by. Matt Duss is horrible. Everything he said about Ukraine has aged terribly. He now like being a chicken hawk about China. Every time I see this guy now, he's saying something horrible. But go ahead, Niko.
So one of the reasons I couldn't get myself to fully endorse Bernie from the jump is because I found out from one of the people high up in his campaign that Matt Duss was going to be there against the advice of some of the campaign's executives. I was like, but y'all know who the fuck.
So they knew.
Yeah, we know. Huh?
So against the advice, so I didn't know that. So against the advice of some camp, so they know who this guy was. It wasn't like they didn't know him. They decided.
Yeah, exactly.
That's an important point. That's why I wanted to emphasize that. But go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's when you got people like Matt Duss running campaigns, and that's why when somebody gets something wrong and they don't have any like for foreign policy is not easy, guys. Like that's one of the reasons I'm like a little bit, whenever people get something a little wrong, I'm going to correct them and to see what course they take after, because I'm fully aware of like the journey that I had to go on to reach the point I'm at with foreign policy. Because we have to remember, there's a human element to talking about politics publicly, especially when it comes to foreign policy. I can tell you what might be right or wrong, but if I can't explain to you why it's right or wrong, most of the time you're going to think I'm full of shit, and people are going to think I'm stupid, and they're not going to care about my opinion regardless of whatever I say, right? Until I can tell you, no, we got here because of A, B, C, D, E, F, and G, show you the proof of that, and give you the logical pattern that follows, like, you're not going to care about what I have to say. And that's a little bit overwhelming for people who like, a lot of people run for president, and for some reason, they don't fucking think about foreign policy until that time comes up and they have to address it. And you see them get exposed every single time. People who are well-meaning, but like, it's very rare that you get a Jill Stein situation. More often than not, you get the what's that fucker's name? You know who I'm talking about.
Howie Hawkins, right?
Yes, you usually end up with the Howie Hawkins situation, even when they may or may not be well-meaning, right? So with Matt Duss, what was the first time around, people kind of were willing to forgive Bernie, and even to some degree, Matt Duck, maybe you were caught up in the machine. Maybe you didn't know better because like you're in a bubble when you work in Washington. Maybe Bernie didn't know better because he didn't know how bad Matt Duck's policies were until he stepped out of that DC bubble, talked to more independent-minded people when it came to foreign policy, and then, damn, okay, this is bad. But no, what happened is Bernie doubled down. Matt Duss quadrupled down. People ignored the advice. Like, everybody was ignoring the facts when it came to foreign policy, and now we're here. And I just feel like if you're gonna fuck people over when it comes to foreign policy and trying to convince people to go to war, you gotta do a better job than what the hell we've been seeing. Because maybe it's to the point where now they don't know how to react because of the social media, the reactions to how they react on social media. You don't get to give an interview and then wait 4, 5, 6 days later to get a reaction, to see if the news cares about it before you speak. You got to speak now. You got to react to the reactions now. And it's putting pressure on people to know what the fuck they're talking about. And people are getting exposed. Nikki Haley, I feel like she thought she was running a campaign in 1990. Right? That's what it felt like. That's what it feels like. My prediction for 2024, there's a good chance. So I've talked about this before. Talked about this on George Galloway's show. People think that Joe Biden's going to make it to the election, and I don't think so. I think it is going to be Gavin Newsom who takes over, because they're expecting an election to take place and for things to be fair and equal to some degree, or at least if they think that somebody's going to be removed, they think the only person that has a chance of being removed is Trump. Trump probably has the least. He's the least likely to not. Or he's the least likely to be prevented from seeing this thing all the way through. Joe Biden, on the other hand, he doesn't have power anymore. Not really. He don't even have his brain cells anymore. But we know one thing about the Democrats, if we know anything. Boy, they is not above removing your ass right at the convention without you fucking knowing about it. Right? And there have been people within the Democratic elite that have been very clear. Maybe we should run Gavin Newsom. Maybe we can run Gavin Newsom. You got Bill Maher saying it. Maybe we should run Gavin Newsom. We should run. He knows what he's talking about. He's a winner. So why is there open discussion about challenging the current leader of the Democratic Party, who is the president, during a primary when we've never seen anything like that before amongst the mainstream? And why is it one name in particular?
Yep.
Because they know at the convention we can do what the fuck we want to do, can't we? But if we put Gavin Newsom in, what happens right now, Nick? If they try to put Gavin Newsom in right now, he gets exposed. He's not Clinton. Because what we gonna spend our time doing? What we gonna spend our time doing if Gavin Newsom comes up here talking about I'm progressive? What you do about them healthcare bills? What about them wildfires that you keep trying to blame on climate change, but it's really PG&E that's paying your fucking campaign and everybody at the assembly there all that money? So you can look the other way and take cute pictures and pretend like it isn't the fact that you're not forcing them to uphold their infrastructure. What you doing with that homeless population that you send in a fucking jail or allowing to be sent to jail? Right? He gets exposed. So they can't put him out. They can't march him out right now. YouTube would roast us. And Gavin's one of those people, kind of like Joe Biden, or really the majority of the establishment. He's going to get it from both sides, because Republicans don't like him for their reasons, and we don't like him for our reasons. So I believe that Joe Biden's going to get marched out, and Gavin's going to get marched in. And I think that it's not going to go well for Gavin Newsom, in my opinion, because I feel like Trump is just going to roast him. Gavin a pretty boy. He really is not ready for the ones that you gotta like be prepared for.
Yeah.
You know, and California just got too many, like you ain't really had a challenge like that since you've been governor of California. You've been able to run away from a lot of decisions you've made over the last several years. When you sitting there in front of Trump, bro, I just feel like it's a different beast. Because he don't give a fuck about truth, fact, or fiction, and he's very good at arguing all three when it's convenient for him. So I think it's going to be a showdown, but Gavin Newsom doesn't have the power to get the results, in my opinion, that Trump has because the entire establishment on the Democrat side is divided because they don't know who's up next. Because the entire DLC, like that, Joe Biden's the last one. That's the last one. There's nobody who has it. Do you have the power to literally overthrow a government, take over their resources, kill people who you need to be killed, remove people you need to be removed, and no one can do anything about it? Because if you don't have that kind of power, then you're not fit to be the president for the Democratic Party. That's how Bill Clinton, Hillary, obviously, she didn't win, but State Department, but Joe Biden was there during that administration. Joe Biden now, his son can literally do whatever the fuck he wants to. But Gavin Newsom, he don't got that kind of power. Nobody left has that kind of power. So it's going to be very, very interesting to see what happens and who fights for Gavin Newsom. Because I do believe that there are going to be some lines drawn in the sand. Really quick, I want to, give me a second, I'm going to pull up this video. Bro, did you know that Bill Maher had a new show? A new podcast, excuse me? Somebody is dumb enough to give him a podcast yet.
Who watches that? I can't believe people just pure boomers who found the internet.
Bro, I didn't know about it until the clip came up. I'm like, damn, somebody pays to watch, because he usually does, or maybe a lot of people aren't really keeping their subscriptions to watch Bill Maher anymore. So maybe that's why he started the podcast. I just don't see a scenario where Bill Maher thought it was a good idea to actually be him and himself one-on-one, even in situations where it's somebody especially in situations where it's somebody he disagrees with, because he's an idiot. He's stupid. I don't know why he thought that was a good idea. So I want to pull up the first clip and I'm gonna let you cook, because you're gonna be like, ain't no way this motherfucker thought this was a good idea.
Yeah, Bill Maher is like, he one of the people I saw like in my early teenage days, and I thought he was witty for just a little bit. Like when I was a teenager, I knew nothing about politics. Now he's just a boomer who complains about young people now on the left. And he has this enlightened centrism that people think makes people cool. It's you not taking solid position, and you being a brain dead partisan does not make you enlightened. But let's continue.
He's not even a brain dead. He's worse than a brain dead partisan. He tries to be an edgy partisan person by taking the worst positions on both sides at the weirdest times, just unprompted. It doesn't.
What are your feelings on the election coming up? I mean, Biden and Trump. Are you just depressed about that, as most people, as a choice?
My feeling is, pick your policy, not your person. Find out. This is not the Dallas Cowboys versus your favorite team. This is the policies that will affect our generations for the next 20, 30, 40 years to come. So close your eyes, listen to the policies that are being pushed, and pay attention even to the people who don't have a chance of winning, because they're going to say policies you may want to push. And I would say do that, but make it policy based.
So that means you're for.
That means I'm for Black people and happy Black History Month.
But you're not saying one candidate over the other?
Hey man, my nigga, you ain't gonna get me in no trouble tonight.
No, that's your job with me, to get me in trouble.
My grandfather gave me some stellar advice sometimes. He said, son, sometimes you just got to know to stay out of white folks' business. This time, I'm going to keep my mouth closed.
Hey, I'm going to give y'all what that slang is basically saying, and Nick has made this point, I've made this point, y'all not about to sit here and be like, oh man, you got to vote for Biden because Trump is racist. Nah, bro. You can't present, oh man, this person is racist and this person is not to Black people and that have lived in America, because every president we've had has been racist or has passed racist policies. Yeah. That's what you mean by stay out of white folks' business. Just like, for what? Y'all, I'm not pressed to vote for one white supremacist over another. That's what he means by that. But yeah. I'm going to let him cook, and I'm going to let you.
I still like the policy that the old man had that I was supporting. I would encourage people to find who's supporting that policy and see what
But you can't get yourself to say vote for Biden over Trump.
Oh, Jesus.
You want me to list it now? So now
I'm just saying that.
Can he get himself to apologize for the crime bill? Can he get himself to get his head out of his ass and say, black people, you are black regardless. I need you to tell me what I need to do. Can he pick a coalition of former people who are affected by drug laws, street gangs, recidivism and crime and say, I need you as a board to advise me how to fix federal prisons? If he can do that, absolutely I can. So my challenge is out there.
All right.
Man.
Shut his ass down. Shut his ass down.
What do you think about that clip, man?
You gotta see why Killer Mike get the TV appearances, right? Because that was a funny and also a pretty amusing answer, and one I mostly agree with. And also why I would never be invited to these kind of shows, because the question is so absurd. I'm like, are you asking me whether I'm gonna vote for the guy who's slaughtering Gazan children?
Yeah.
The guy who lied and said Al-Shifa Hospital was a Hamas headquarters with no evidence? The guy who said he saw 40 beheaded babies that even the IDF and Israel retracted? He said he saw it with his very eyes, lying? The guy who cut UNRWA aid, even though investigations exposed how Israel had no evidence tying UNRWA with Hamas. I covered that on our hotspot video yesterday. Mm-hmm. The Biden administration is truly one of the most depraved administrations. And I swear to God, Niko, I do not say this lightly. I have held off on saying this for a very long time. But he is truly one of the most depraved administration. I put George Bush 1A and Joe Biden 1B. He is the utter disregard for international law. Just this year, he bombed Iraq, Syria, Somalia, supplying bombs to Gaza, trying to provoke war with China, with Taiwan, armed Nazis in Ukraine. Like this is like would be my answer. It wouldn't be like a diplomatic answer. Maybe I should improve and learn how to reach out to these bourgeoisie motherfuckers like that. But to me, like that question is so absurd. I'm like, are you serious, sir? Like, there's another option that we can vote third party. Like, and that's I don't want to show frustration at Killer Mike there. But like, why don't people do that stuff? Like when you ask,
well, I think that was his point with the policy. That's why he focused on policy. He was like, "Nah, you find somebody whose policy you support." And in Killer Mike's defense, he has never really been the person that puts all his eggs in one basket. Even though like he's kind of been on some liberal stuff lately, but I feel like he's kind of come back to the light, which is why he refused to answer that question. Like, no, we're not about to pad this game. But like, he is like a mutual aid type person. That's what I was gonna say. I know that the option is third party, but there's also other option. Get your ass out into the goddamn street like RBN does and go fucking change your community. Mm-hmm. Stop relying on people that you know are sociopaths. You can spend your time criticizing sociopaths and then the rest of your free time helping people who have been screwed by those sociopaths. And if you do both of those things at the same time, bro, the results are spectacular, actually. Because then they have to start peddling to you. I mean, that's what the Black Panthers did. They were like, yeah, we're going to criticize the federal government. Oh, but you're going to still take what the federal government has? No, we're not going to do that either, bro. We're going to get our own money. We're going to have our own classes. We're going to have our own schools. We're going to teach people to use weapons and how to defend themselves. We're going to have daycares. We're going to make sure no one goes hungry. And we're still going to criticize the motherfuckers because we don't even need them. And that's kind of what makes it even worse, right? Like, we have all the room to criticize them because y'all are just fucking up, and we've proven we don't even need y'all ass. And they label them terrorist organizations, but if they weren't a threat to the U.S., to the narrative, and to the fact that to this belief, right, that we can't exist or live without the help of the federal government, the same federal government that takes our tax dollars and then we're going to fund neo-Nazis. We're going to fund kids being killed overseas. Like, if you disrupt that narrative, then you are the biggest problem. Because now you figured out, oh, shit, all we got to do is work together. And none of this matters. Shit, let's do that then. Right? Like, why y'all? How many people attack y'all, bro? Like, on the cusp of y'all doing a mutual aid event, I feel like every single time someone comes out or a group of people just start attacking the shit out of y'all. Why?
You had Hassan Piker. They sent the biggest streamer on the internet after us because the General Strike Summit, and then he did a stream line about it, saying that we had no UN organizer, even though it was packed with UN organizer, including legends like Ed Greiser, a UN organizer for 40 plus years. But he's spread smears about the Drone Strike Summit. And to me, it's not a coincidence that Vosh and Hassan, two of the largest streamers, spread lies about the Drone Strike Summit. But what's even funnier is that Hassan Piker then, a year and a half later, stole our idea. He was like, look at these motherfuckers grifting. Do you think you can have a live stream with UN organizers? What are you going to accomplish with that? These fucking grifters, they're not going to accomplish anything with a live stream. That was his critique, and that was the critique that we got. And then he stole our idea a year and a half later. He had Chris Smalls and a bunch of UN organizers on. And then a bunch of Hassan people
streaming,
Piker fans was like, see, look, why aren't anyone else doing what Hassan Piker is doing? Look, Hassan Piker is giving voice to the unions. And I was like, he stole our idea. And Hassan Piker, who has over 1 million followers on Twitter, I ratioed him. Who ratios Hassan when I called him out for the General Strike Summit? That's how bad faith he was. But people get these attack orders on us because we are trying to show a different way how to do things on the left. This is why, once again, I think Killer Mike did a great job in his appearance. But do you guys notice how whenever I go on George Galloway, well, when I went on George Galloway, I was talking about my theory of change. I did like a 3-minute rant about why people should get involved in mutual aid. I was just on Jimmy Dore show. I was advocating for mutual aid. On RBN, we talk about a lot of different things. Obviously, we have advocate for revolution. But you guys know every time I make a guest appearance, you know what I push? I push the theory of change. I push activism. That's the most important part of politics. Why do people leave that out? So Killer Mike, once again, I'm not criticizing him at all. Don't get it wrong. But when he says policy, why are you being so vague? Why aren't you telling people hit the streets? Why aren't you telling people engage in music? Why aren't you giving a direct call to action? If you guys notice, I do this on every single guest appearance I make. You know what I mean? Every single time I know I'm going to another show, I advocate. We need to get engaged in mutual aid. We need to lead the duopoly. We need to advocate for revolution. And that's what I think people need to do more of. And not just being aligned on policy. This is what we talk about on RBN all the time. We agree with Democrats on Medicare for all. We got a different fucking strategy than them, though. To us, strategy and how you get there is just as important in the conversation as being aligned on the policy. Like, it makes, like, imagine, Niko, for example, if you guys understand what I'm trying to say, we are aligned on Ukraine and Israel, right? You know what I mean? We are aligned on that policy. But imagine if I said, Niko, the solution to those problems for us to vote for Joe Biden. Let's organize and rally behind Democrats. You're like, what are you talking about? You guys see how that agreement means nothing if we don't agree on our strategy and our call to action? Hopefully that makes sense. But go ahead, Niko.
No, you're 100% right. I mean, hell, wasn't that was basically the whole 2020 problem, right? That we were faced with, which is that people would say they agree racism is bad, whatever. Okay. They agree unions should be strengthened at their core, not like the corruption at the top, but like literally at their core. They believe workers' rights should be strengthened, etc. I mean, freedom of speech, allegedly, right? But they was like, yeah, man, let's vote for Joe Biden to get that done. Or voting for Joe Biden gives us the best chance to achieve that. And we're like, hold on, what the fuck? Are you sure we agree on this? Because it really gets to that point where you're like, hold on, are you sure we agree on the same things?
Yeah.
Because they couldn't even really present an argument. When somebody says, because that's what's crazy, right? So somebody says, I'm anti-war, as region, personally, I'm anti-war. And I want to take the best steps to get to net zero when it comes to war. And there is like probably a little bit of harm reduction that you could actually factor in when it comes to being anti-war. And someone can make the argument, yeah, Trump didn't start more and he reduced and tried to reduce stuff here. I'm like, well, shit. I mean, I don't think that necessarily it weighs enough on my anti-war scale what he did, but at least that's an argument where you can say that he made steps towards progressing in that direction with Joe Biden. Motherfucker, where have you gotten this evidence that he's going to be any kind of answer? Well, he said once. Bernie said he was going to do compromises with us. You mean Bernie, who just got that crazy position in the Senate and then told everybody kick rocks? You said kick rocks, y'all. Deuces. That's what he did, man.
Niko,
go ahead.
Niko, what you just described is what Garland Nixon was talking about on my show Nick and I last night. Where this is why the Bernie people and the people who advocate for Biden had even less credibility because they was pushing the lesser two evils ideology. And Garland Nixon said something last night definitively, and I can't even say I necessarily disagree, we don't agree with lesser two evils, but if you put a gun to our head, he said definitively on my stream, like, if you force me, I will never vote for any of these people, but if you force me, I'm voting for Trump over Biden. Yeah, and he's like, it's an easy decision for me to make. I wouldn't do that, but if I had to, it would be Trump.
If you put a gun in my head, I'm going to vote for the person I'm allowed to criticize. Right? I'm going to vote for the person I'm allowed to challenge. I'm going to vote for the person who actually is allowed to have the justice system put pressure on him. Now, obviously, right now, it's not a justified pressure. What they're doing to him is, like, they had so many reasons to actually criticize his presidency and impeach him. They didn't like him attacking Syria for no fucking reason without investigation. Like, that was a legitimate reason. They didn't do it. They didn't take it. I'm pissed at the fact that he promised. He told us we was going to get Hillary locked up. Nick, you know how excited I was about that? Bitch is still walking the streets. Let us down. His people still pissed about that. I ain't forgetting about Operation Warp Speed, right? But at the same time, I know that I'm allowed to say those things. And I'm not going to be potentially put in jail for it. I'm allowed, if I go to march, we go to march on, say if Trump decided to give his speech, his inauguration speech, and we decide to go march on his inauguration speech right now, Nick, we're not going to get thrown in jail. We're not going to be dealing with federal courts and felonies for the next 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years of our lives. Because it's Trump. So yeah, that's probably who I would want in power. The person I can actually challenge. Because with Biden, or the shell of a man who writes Biden on his little name tag, we're not allowed to criticize him. So why would I want a man that I can criticize in power who I know is horrible, rather than a man I also have a lot of problems with that I can actually, that one seems to be absurdly beholden to a fault to his base. Somebody actually tweeted out the other day, Nick, it was funny as shit because it's the realest shit I ever. He said, Trump is almost a populist to a fault because he leads his movement as much as he also follows their directive. Which would explain why the fuck he makes no sense sometimes.
That's true on COVID, Niko.
Huh?
That's true on COVID because remember, Trump was a COVIDian. He changed his position because it's based. But I'll let you continue. I just want to add that point because that's an example.
No, it's literally it's when he gets something right, it could be because of his base or because like he's challenging somebody in the establishment who's pissing him off. But then if his base has a different opinion on it, he like will directly contradict his correct position. But also when he's wrong and he thinks he's leading from the front, his base will also correct him when he's wrong. And he will change course. And so it is the definition of he goes where the wind blows, but he's like, yeah, but they're also the ones who keep me in power. He answers to his base, and his base is loud as shit. Like, and you can also make an argument like that's probably what you want a politician to do. If that's when you vote for somebody, you want them to go wherever the base goes. Unfortunately for us, that's like making an argument that, we should kick out every undocumented immigrant and like ignore the fact that like, nah, maybe I should stop destroying the fucking countries, right? They focus on all the immigrants who are coming in, not focusing on the people that already have been arrested. Like Joe Biden is like, he's a special kind of failure. He's a special kind of failure, dog. How do you simultaneously arrest more undocumented immigrants, put more kids in cages than anybody, and somehow you still have the least secure border in history? I don't, bro, Nick, how? You pissed off everybody. Everybody.
Yeah.
Like you couldn't even be, like you couldn't fail once per issue? How you fail twice for both sides, bro? What? When the border crisis comes up, how is he going to argue during the debate, Nick? We do have a secure border. We arrested more people than history. And the Democrats will be like, hold on, what? Y'all put all them kids in cages? Well, nah, man, you ain't heard. We let them slide. Well, which one is it? Because you fucked up. But from that conversation, I feel like that's there is almost, it's like a manufactured crisis to some degree. I feel like that. The more you talk about the border, the less you talk about what? Talk about it.
Yes, Niko. Yes. This is exactly what I've been saying on RBN, brother, but continue. This is exactly what I've been saying.
Oh, y'all said the same thing.
Yeah, because I'll continue. On the first point, on the let's do even, I get back to the border. You have Biden that is prosecuting the Uhuru Black Socialist movement because of their speech and because of their political action. Is Trump doing that? No, that was Joe Biden last time I checked. I don't subscribe to the lesser two evils argument, but what made the lesser two evils argument more discredited by the Bernie left is that they applied it wrong. So I don't support Trump because I don't support evil. That's why I reject the argument. But if you're gonna support the lesser two evils, you don't support Jim Crow Joe. That would make them even more discredited. Now back to the border issue. This is what I've been calling out on RBN because it was, to me, when you see both sides of the establishment pushing this, how aren't people skeptical at that point? Both sides are ruthlessly pushing this, but people think this is an anti-establishment position to be freaking out about the border. They do this because they see a rise of class consciousness and they are trying to distract people. And also we are seeing the end result of U.S. imperialism and what happened when you destabilize entire regions. The border crisis, and Fiorella had a great tweet. I'm trying to get her on RB in here very soon, explaining how the border crisis is the result of sanctions and U.S. imperialism. They don't want to talk about that. So they manufacture a border crisis. They talk about solutions that don't make any goddamn sense. And the reason why Biden, despite deporting more people, despite spending $6 billion more than Donald Trump on the border, there's a border crisis, is because people don't want to cope with the fact that I've been saying on RBN since day one. There is no neoliberal solution to the border crisis. There's only the only people serious about it. People say, "Oh, Nick, you're for open borders." Well, I am for freedom of the movement, by the way. But people say, "Nick, you're for open borders for calling this out." Not true. That is not necessarily true. The only people serious about solving this issue are the people that want to end the Cuban embargo, that want to end sanctions on Venezuela. I'm sure that Niko probably will be back. I see he's kind of dipped out.
No, I'm here. I'm
Okay. But U.S. sanctions, U.S. imperialism is the root cause of the migrant crisis. But they don't want to stop sanctions. They don't want to stop U.S. imperialism. So they are making up this crisis and making up a solution that doesn't make sense. I have heard both sides of this argument. I listen to the Republicans, I listen to Democrats, and the most importantly, I listen to their solutions. Do you guys realize their solutions make no goddamn sense? And there are a lot of like leftists, like they hear like these like black people in Chicago.
Hold on, Nick, are you trying to tell me, bro? Are you trying to tell me that just plug up the border with some crazy glue and some paper mache isn't a solution? It's just effectively what the fuck their solutions about. Like also they keep talking about giving more money to ICE. Why do we keep ignoring the fact that ICE got caught having a sex trafficking ring in Georgia?
Exactly.
Like, we just gonna keep giving fucking money to the sex traffickers? You know how I feel about it. I always say if there's a problem that a lot of persists in the US, it ain't because the government is ignoring it. Nah, it's because the government is actively assisting in creating the problem. That's what it is. It's like the opioid crisis. Like, why is it? Because the government is paid off by the pharmaceutical industry to make sure that the opioid crisis can continue? Because that's how the pharmaceutical industry makes their money. Like, they're not ignoring the problem, they're facilitating it, they're cultivating it, because somebody's getting paid because of it. Real quick, let's check out this this next clip. You're gonna laugh at this shit, bro. You're gonna laugh at this shit. Go ahead.
Had him on my show Friday.
I saw that.
And I first of all, I love him. You just like a guy or you don't. I've known him for a long time. He's done my show for a long time. Do I love everything he does as the governor of California? No, I don't. I wouldn't say I'm undertaxed. Yeah, I have issues with this state. He's a guy. One reason I want him to run for president, well, is because he's obviously a winner. This guy could fucking do it. It's insane that we have the guy, but we can't run him because we have to tiptoe around Biden and
define a winner.
Well, he would win the election.
Oh, so
he would win the election.
So he's a talented debater, speaker, communicator, deflector,
and politician. And he's a smart guy. He's a smart, real guy with a pair of balls. Do I love everything? No, you never do with a politician. But first of all, I think if he ran for president, it'd be great because it would force him to move to the center. Now you're running not just in California. I mean, this is California. It's weirdo.
Are you a results-driven guy?
No, I like to watch things fall apart.
I mean,
of course
you wouldn't build a show that you build and win at the levels you won, for decades if you weren't results-driven, right? I mean, you're Bill Maher.
What do you mean? Well, what's the point about results?
Exactly where I'm going with you. So results-driven guy.
Right.
What areas has Newsom won in? You said he's a winner.
Winner of the election. He could win the election.
But based on what, though? Do you want results? Like, what has he done to California to say he's a winner? What?
Oh God! I don't know. It's too.
Bill, you're a smart
You know what?
guy.
He made it rain. Okay, dude. It wasn't
I
raining.
saw when you said that. He said, "Great job."
It wasn't raining.
Nick.
This guy get paid millions of dollars to talk about politics, and he have no idea what he's talking about. And it's clear to me when you hear him talk about politics, they have no idea about policy. He just vibes, bro. But he's considered the intelligent person, and he viewed people on the left as dumb. He viewed the workers as dumb. But meanwhile, he can't even explain why he likes someone that he's enthusiastically endorsing. This is the brain rot that infested this country. But go ahead, Niko. I know you probably want to. There's a lot to say on this. Like, bro, I can rant on this video.
I'm just like, I don't know, man. Bitch, you just came up here. What's crazy is, like, I'm sure he knows who Patrick Bet-David is. Like, Pat will probably describe himself more as a libertarian than anything, but he probably leans more on the socially conservative side. I know for a fact he does not like California. In fact, I think he left from New York or California to move to Florida. He actually had like the largest estate in Florida. It was the most expensive at the time. And like, like this dude, when Pat wants to, Pat actually is very educated. I don't really agree with all of his takes, but he will like kind of like ask you. He does the Socratic method where he like if he disagrees with you, he'll just keep asking you questions until you figure out that you're wrong. And he's just like very calmly. So like, what has he done? Man, I don't know. You telling me you invited this man on this fucking show to embarrass you by asking you 2 questions? Seriously? Why did you bring him up? Did maybe Pat didn't get the script in advance that he wasn't supposed to ask about policy?
Yeah.
It gets more embarrassing though. Hold up.
And now it's raining, so he's got my vote.
Okay,
you know what?
Respect. I mean,
he I don't know. I don't follow the news. That's
Well,
a character
Bill,
I play
you
on
do. Don't
television.
be a flick.
It's
You're
character.
very.
Thank you. You know what? He admitted it.
There's no way he just said that.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
There's
Nick.
no way.
Now, I don't know if y'all heard that. We're gonna run that back for y'all.
Got my vote.
Okay,
you know what?
Respect. I mean,
he I don't know. I don't follow the news. That's
Well,
a character
Bill,
I play
you
on
do.
television.
Don't be a flick.
It's
You're a
character
very
of mine.
smart guy.
Y'all heard him. Y'all heard him. I don't
Deeply
follow
unserious.
news. It's a character I play on television. That boy, y'all take the goddamn drink out of his hand. I'm sure some producer somewhere was like, "Shut the fuck up, Bill."
Niko, even if that's a joke, the funniest jokes are rooted in truth. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, it's also, he probably felt comfortable saying, he's like, everybody already knows this.
Yeah.
That was Stephen Colbert, wasn't it? Like, pretend like it. I would say it's very rare that you actually have somebody who understands politics playing in one of these type of roles. And him saying that, I mean, even the way that he was describing his affection for Gavin Newsom, he was like kind of like passive about it in a way that he isn't when he's on his show, where he's trying to act as an authority on the issue, right? And you can see Pat look at Patrick Bet-David, y'all. Y'all see this? He look like this motherfucker. Boy, he's faded. I don't know why he's even putting himself in this right now. I didn't even look at him.
You're a very smart guy.
It's a character. I actually live with my delicate wife, Sue, and our 8 homeschooled children. We just had twins, Sean and Hannity. Don't believe everything you see on TV.
So then what this does to me, this actually makes it easier for me to not even have to have this discussion. I just move on to other things we can talk about. Is you base your character on your candidate. You base your candidate based on being a good debater, deflecting, not necessarily results. Because
no, I don't.
If that's how you do it, then Newsom is fantastic, Bill.
Stupid. You're better than this.
Really?
I hope so. I don't know. I'm just getting.
But I asked you a question.
I told you are. I mean, it's a silly argument. A debater. You know, like I can't tell. I've been doing political commentary on television for 30 years. I think I can tell when a guy is just debating or whether make a calculated guess on how he's going to be actually as president. There's 2 different things: running and being the guy.
Jesus Christ, Niko.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. His astute comment. How did he say Joe Biden was going to run the country? Better. He said it was going to be better than Trump. Right. He said that. I remember. How was that astute observation and just this is just abundance of experience helped him. Bro, Pat's like, hey, I respect him for saying that. She's like, oh, this makes the whole show a lot easier. You are a character. That's it. Okay, cool, man. Nah, no, not to take the shit you say seriously, because at first I thought you really believed the bullshit that you said, but now I found out it's just a character. You don't have to believe anything you say.
Dude, how much of this interview have you seen, Niko? Because the funny thing is, I didn't see the clip that Hotspot posted, but I came across a YouTube video of a clip of their conversation, and like who's the interviewer name? Patrick.
Pat Bet David.
David,
Bet David. Yeah.
He was like fawning over Bill Maher in the very beginning.
Because he tried to draw people in. He's kind of like Joe Rogan in that regard, where he tries to draw people in.
I'm not too familiar with him.
Yeah,
I'm not too familiar with him, but he was
I met him in person.
And you can I can kind of see his disappointment as the show continue. But this clip here, Bill Maher looks really bad, but Patrick Bet David looked very bad when I was listening to it earlier when you watched the whole clip, because there was a point where they were talking about Trump and Patrick Bet David was like a big Trump guy. He was like advocate for Trump. And then there was a point where Bill Maher was like, hey man, can you drop the partisan stuff, man? And when Bill Maher, it was when you got Bill Maher telling you to stop being partisan, it's bad. So this conversation was essentially like red, blue, like garbage, essentially. But this clip right here is very interesting because you guys see how Bill Maher he gauges a politician's success based on not what he does for people and not his politics. It's how well he can win an election. Why do you like Gavin Newsom? Because he can win an election. What? That's not why you support someone. You support someone and they had good principles. And then he was pressed on why he liked Gavin Newsom. Because he win elections.
And also, there's not really any. It's like what Pat said. Like you don't really know if he can win the election just because because what Pat asked was, okay, so what has he done in California that leads you to believe that? Because that's going to be a fucking question that people ask. What have you? Because remember, that's what DeSantis, when he thought he had a chance, he was riding on the way he handled Florida during COVID. The fact that their economy skyrocketed, everybody moved there. Him not being overly paternalistic and allowing the cities to make the decisions that were best for their localities when it came to the COVID mandates, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Like he was running on how he did in Florida when it came to domestic policy. What the fuck is Gavin Newsom going to run on, bro? Well, that's a good question to ask. And he couldn't even ask that. So it was like, you think he's going to win, but you don't even know how he would do it? You know that these aren't sound bites. When you have to sit on that debate stage or when you get asked and grilled by certain people, because that general election, the primary, obviously, you do get asked a lot, but that general election, bro, you get grilled. And that's on both sides. Trump has gotten grilled and gotten exposed in some ways too, where he has to answer to his base, and his base loves him. So, like, imagine Gavin Newsom, who really doesn't have a base, if we're being completely honest. He wins elections, legitimately or otherwise. We don't really know if we're being honest, because California has one of the worst election systems in the country. But I can tell you solidly, he doesn't have a base. He has a base of elites. That's not the same thing. So, yeah, but better. But what's crazier than Pat David's reaction is just Bill just like, yo, so why does he make so much money? Now I see why Bill was so adamant about not doing anything during the writer's strike. It wasn't because of the writers being on strike. It was because the writers were on strike.
Absolutely.
It was a difference.
Like Bill Maher knows exactly what he's doing. Like he's a class enemy. And like Mika Brzezinski from Morning Joe said, the job of the media is to control how people think. Bill Maher is not the average American. He don't have the excuse of being ignorant. I seen good guests on the show, not him. I would see like a random good guest on the show spit knowledge on an issue that like Bill Maher would be opposed to. So Bill Maher is exposed to information, but he plays dumb. Why do he do this? He is trying to program his audience how to think. He wants people to think the way he does. When he talk about politicians, I think Gavin Newsom's a good guy. I think he's good at debate. I think he's good at elections. He wants people not to think about policy. That's why he breaks down news the way he does. I do not think he is dumb as he letting off. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm right. But Bill Maher, think about all the like the good clips you see from the show. Like every once in a while, you will have like a good guest, like someone like Russell Brand that will come on who will tell the truth every once in a while. The point being is that Bill Maher is exposed to good information. He has access to good information. He chooses not to retain that information. He chooses to be a dumbass because he is trying to program liberal voters who don't think about their rulers. So that's my general take, seeing him talk about Gavin Newsom. And not just that he's avoiding like Gavin Newsom's policy, avoiding his record, and not that he's purposely trying to be ditzy in his politics. He wants his audience to be that way. If that makes sense. You know what I mean?
That boy dropped the bomb right there. That was that was some fire right there, man. That's because that is, man, look, because sometimes it is a self-preservation factor that kicks in with a lot of people, but you're basically saying, no, it's not even self-preservation with him. He's paid to achieve a mission.
You see that clip with Joanne Reed, where Joanne Reed said, Biden started another motherfucking war. I bet you behind the scenes, Joanne Reed is clowning Biden. I bet behind the scenes, Joanne Reed is probably his sister. But she's a sister that's sold out. But her job is to go on camera and tell everyone that Biden is doing good. These people, and like I said, the character, they are saying stuff they absolutely don't believe. And this is a conclusion that to me is obvious.
That's fact. No, Joanne Reed specifically, it's funny that you brought her up because, I'm not going to say how I know, but I do know for a fact that Joanne Reed had every intention on roasting Hillary the entirety of 2016. She had every intention of it. And Bernie fucked it up. Bernie disallowed one of his representatives to go on that was particularly invited by Joanne Reed. They pointed out, I know that some of your policies are really good for black people, and I hate that bitch. So, like, let's bring them on. Dead ass, bro. And
I didn't know that.
Because Bernie and Jeff Weaver refused to allow that person to go on Joanne Reed, Joanne was like, oh, word? Bet. So we're going to spend this entire election roasting. That's what happened. So Joanne Reed didn't even really believe everything she was saying as far as comparing Bernie to Hillary, Hillary to Bernie. But like, that was like, oh, everybody thinks that you're this person. And it was almost like a personal thing because, like, obviously she's black. She's like, wow, I even believed in this motherfucker. And now you're going to throw it back in my fucking face? And then you're convincing all these people that you're somebody you're not. That's how. So it seemed unhinged to us. But it really wasn't. It was vindictive, yeah. But like, it was actually based from a place where she felt betrayed, not only as a supporter of Bernie, but as a black person. And like, damn, I thought that you were different than Hillary. Now I'm about to spend my time convincing everybody you're not all that different than her. That's why she kept calling him racist and saying that he was, you know what I'm saying? Like, it was like very specific. And when you really talk about Hillary, she didn't really support Hillary all that much in her rhetoric, but she was extremely anti-Bernie.
Yeah.
So it was a character of a different ilk, but it was still a character. But you're absolutely right, man. Like with Bill Maher specifically, otherwise you don't let on Russell Brand or Killer Mike because you're letting them on to bring in more people, right? To bring in people who would otherwise be watching their shows. And I'm gonna give Bill Maher a chance because at least he let Killer Mike talk. At least he let Russell Brand or one of my favorite journalists or critical thinkers talk. Let me hear what he has to say. And he dumbs them down. Now, granted, I don't think that's really working all that well anymore, but I do believe that in his heyday, it worked quite well, or else he wouldn't have had his own show on HBO Max. I wanted to talk to you really quick about his last story. Did you hear about the final count not the final count, but the current count of civilian deaths in Gaza, the civilian Israeli deaths specifically?
Israeli death? Yeah, I
don't know that much. Israeli deaths, the hostage death.
Yeah. Educate me.
So, great article from antiwar.com. Give me 1 second. Let me pull it up for y'all.
Yeah, David antiwar.com. They do great work over there.
Yeah, fantastic work. So, Israel says more than a fifth of Israeli hostages.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
A fifth, bro. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Israeli intelligence officials have concluded that more than a fifth of the remaining Israeli hostages in Gaza are dead, news that is sure to increase the domestic anger directed at the government of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. The Israeli assessment, which was obtained by the New York Times, said that at least 30 of the 136 Israelis held captive in Gaza have died since the start of the Israeli onslaught. The report did not say how they were killed, but it is likely that they were killed by Israeli forces. Some freed Israeli hostages have said their primary fear while being held in Gaza was being killed by Israel's relentless bombing campaign. In December, Israeli troops gunned down 3 Israeli hostages who were shirtless and waving a white flag in Gaza City. The mother of an Israeli who died in Gaza has alleged that her son was killed by poison gas Israel pumped into the tunnels underneath the strips, citing a toxicology report. Israeli media has reported that Israel's military is aware of that bombing the tunnels could create toxic gases such as carbon monoxide, which would risk killing Israelis. Yeah, man. Yeah. 1/5.
So the reason why I say the United States is the most propagandized country in the world, and 2 legitimate pushbacks I think is legitimate, is when people say the UK and Israel. But I still stand firm because I do acknowledge they got bad propaganda. But you guys realize Israeli media was talking about this? Israeli media was talking about how Benjamin Netanyahu failed hostage families. You want to know, the Western media, the United States media, is still pretending that Israel's doing everything they can to get that.
When Israel's own media isn't even they can't. They can't.
This
anymore.
is why I say the United States is the most propagandized. Israel's bad, but no one is more shameless and also being effective while being shameless at the same time than the United States propaganda. This is common knowledge. This is why Netanyahu has around a 4% approval rating among the Israeli public on how he's handling the war. Well, not only because of how he handled the hostages, but because of Israeli settler colonialists. They want more bombing. That's another reason why they're upset.
That part too, yeah.
A lot of people don't want to acknowledge that. You see, the Democrats, who their strategy is to pin everything on Netanyahu. Oh, it's a Netanyahu problem. No. It's an Israeli problem. It's a very actually good technique they use to deflect criticism away from Israel and the Zionist project to pretend that the Gaza campaign is only the fault of Netanyahu. No, if you look at the Israeli public, they want Netanyahu to be more violent and they want him to be worse. So it's those 2 factors: it's how they handled the hostages, and the fact that they didn't eliminate Hamas. That the fact that the Israelis don't see more dead Palestinians are making them upset. Now, one of the reasons why the Hannibal Directive is important to cover, and the Israeli media have been covering this. The Israeli media, it covered how the IDF murdered Israelis during October 7th. If you say that in America, they will say you're anti-Semitic. This is what they attack Gray Zone for. That's a opinion that is completely out of bounds. That's why we all shadow banned. All of us are shadow banned because we tell
facts.
Right? Meanwhile, in the Israeli media, reporting on the idea that Israel attacked and killed people on October 7th is mainstream and normal. The biggest papers called this out. You had tank shells. Well, you had tank shells firing people at homes. You had Apache helicopters shooting cars that was leaving because they was afraid that people were being taken hostage. Because Israeli military doctrine is we kill anyone who's being taken hostage because we can't have hostages, period. And if we do have people that are taken hostage, we are down for bombing them because if we kill them, that's fine because we don't want hostages.
And there's 2 reasons. Because we don't want to exchange any of them. Because if they know that there are hostages that are available to be exchanged, it could be a political problem, right? But then also, if the hostages are exchanged, there's if the Palestinians are released and now they're telling everything that happened in these fucking prisons, the Israeli Israeli military tribunals. They're held captive. 90% of them are held without charge, and they're raped, they're sexually assaulted, they're dismembered, they're tortured, and that would eventually obviously make the news. So it's like a 2-prong. Oh, and then also they're worried that after a while, Israeli military could end up, revealing information because they also probably know, shit, man, I know about the Hannibal Directive. I'm gonna be killed if I don't tell y'all something. So let me go ahead. So there's a little military product strategy. It's not a good one. Honestly, it's not a smart one. It's dumb as fuck. But it's a strategy, in my opinion, that is indicative of the fact that Israel don't give no fucks about Israelis.
Yeah.
That's it.
It's shocking to see, actually, too, Niko, because I guess I'm being more aware of that fact now recently, because I always had the perception that even though Israel is a violently brutal apartheid state, that they at least care about they're settler colonialists bullshit. You know what I mean? Seeing how little they care about the settler colonialists that they want to commit genocide so they can have a home is crazy to me. I guess that's like a new element. Go ahead.
Keep thinking. I'm figuring out what's going on in my video. Go ahead.
Yeah. So, like, the idea was that you guys are doing all these evil things to the Palestinians and creating this ethno-fascist state for the sake of Israeli lives. And then there was one of the Israeli hostage families, one of the moms, I covered this on RBN, that was protesting the Knesset in Israel. You guys know I read more than I'm actually hear the thing said. I think the Knesset in Israel. And as she was being taken away, and as she was being brutalized by the guards, she said on video, "This government is worse than Hamas. How dare you guys treat us this way? How dare you guys treat us this way? You guys are worse than Hamas." So you have the Israelis for the first time are realizing that this government don't give a shit about them, which is wild, because that was like a perception I have. At least they care about their people, even though they slaughtering Palestinians. Even though they want to wage war with Lebanon and Syria, they do it on behalf of their people. No, they are not. That's a crazy realization, right? They're not even doing that for the prosperity of their people, right?
Hey, Nick, I'll still get my camera again. But hey, man, do the U.S. settler colonialists care about us?
Good point, Niko. Good point. Good point.
Real talk. Look. I'm gonna tell you what I did. We how many times have we heard they knew about 9/11 before it happened? Like, and now we're finding out as more and more years pass, not only did the US know about 9/11, Saudi Arabia knew about 9/11, Israel knew about 9/11. So everybody knew about 9/11 except for the motherfuckers who was killed and who live here. Come on.
Yep. They don't give. That's why people need to understand the empire did not benefit us at all. Did not benefit us at all. But anyway, Niko, anything else we got? I probably gotta grab something here soon. Anything else we should?
Yeah, I'm about to close out. I just want everybody to see my face before I leave.
Yeah. Great show though.
But that's what I'm going to bring up, man. Like the fact that we have there's already been an established pattern that settler colonialists only care about settler colonialism. That's it. You feel me? Like, and once we deal with reality, which is that if they're willing to assassinate women and children and babies, bomb them into oblivion, willing to kill their own people, their own soldiers that are effectively stealing the land for them, why do you think they would care about you? Zionism is only as useful as it can be used as a means for the powerful to gain more power. And if you're standing in the way of that, I mean, I already know that Zionism is inherently anti-Semitic, but if you're a Zionist standing in the way of that, guess what that means? Same thing, bro. Like, you're still screwed. So with that being said, Nick, tell everybody where they can find you at.
Yeah, make sure you guys check us out at Revolutionary Blackout on YouTube. I just had Garland Nixon on last night. It was a great conversation. Brilliant conversation. I had Niko House and Misty on Nick at night as well. Make sure you guys check us out at Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. I gotta have y'all on back very soon. As well. I think CJ is hosting Lee Camp today. I gotta check the schedule for exact time, but I think it's in the evening, around 7, but don't quote me. But so Lee Camp coming on today. Nick at night, Thursday evening and Saturday at noon. Make sure you guys check us out. Make sure you check us out at Hotspot as well. Producing banger after banger after banger video. So
got another banger come out in about 5-10 minutes too. Got another banger dropping today. So y'all go follow Hotspot. Make sure y'all follow Hotspot on YouTube and on Twitter at Hotspot. I know it's 2 Hotspots. It's redundant, but the first Hotspot already had a Twitter handle, so that's what we went with. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all so much for tuning into this live stream segment of For the People podcast. Make sure y'all like the video, share the video. You can donate to our Patreon, the link below. You can donate through Cash App, whatever, wherever. All the links are in the. Oh, you can even donate Bitcoin or Ethereum if you want. All those links and those addresses are in the description below. But always remember, more than anything else, find your balance. Peace.